coming down the stretch. They're off at the gate. They're under the...
Today I'm with Gene Levey, better known to TrackWinner.com members as Delta Sports. I'm glad to have you here today, Gene.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
You know, Gene goes back a long time in racing. In fact, I've accused him many times of inventing horse racing. Him and I sit together, are pretty close to each other every day at Tampa Bay Downs, and over a period of years, I've learned a lot from Gene, and hopefully we can get some of it out to you, and I think you'll find very, very informative. Controversial, but very informative. Gene, when did you start in racing?
Well, I went to my first sale in 1956, but I started to go to the racetrack in 1946.
1940. Now, were you a trainer at that time?
No, I took out my license, the harness license I took out in 1959, and then the thoroughbreds I took out in 1961.
1961. Now, at some point, I believe in Baltimore, didn't you have a handicapping school?
Oh, in Washington, downtown Washington, D.C.
It was Washington.
Washington, D.C.
Now, how did that come about? What happened there?
Well, I wanted to show people that a horse is just not a number on a tote board. So that's a copy, I guess he's showing you, that was in the Washington Post. You know, the famous Washington Post.
And the Post, I think, mentions here, was the very first handicapping school.
Yes, I opened the first handicapping school in the United States. And see, back then, the Racing Form or the Morning Telegraph, either one, would never take ad from a person that had anything to do with touting a horse or, you know, promoting it like you see today. It was if you want to sell a horse or something in that nature, they would take the ad. But if it had anything to do about betting or touting, they would not take the ad.
So how did you manage to get here?
Well, I opened this, and word gets around. You know how Washington is. They came and interviewed me. Tuition or admission to the talks, where, don't laugh now, it was $3.30.
How did you come up with the 30 cents?
Well, it was a federal tax, 10% tax. So, well, I don't bet fillies and mares, only grade one stakes.
Now, why is that?
Well, because they're not a dependable betting proposition.
So you're looking for the races that the horses are going to run the form.
Well, yeah, I prefer colts and geldings, but my first choice is geldings.
Right. Now, do you think geldings run truer to form than, say, fillies?
Well, absolutely. Okay. If a person takes 12-month period and makes mind bets on fillies and mares, they will see after 12 months how much money they would have lost on fillies and mares. And whatever happens, I guarantee that you'll cut your losses down considerably by not betting fillies and mares.
With Steinbrenner, are you?
Yes. Yeah.
And you're also friends with another big guy in racing.
Yes.
And his name is?
In fact, he called me last night.
Yeah. His name is?
Satish Sanan. It's Padua Stable. It's a lot of people call it Padua, P-A-D-U-A, but it's pronounced Padua, not Padua. So Satish is. Well, the last big race that we won was, well, the two, Cajun Beat won the sprint, and... I
was actually, I was there.
Yeah, you were...
Yeah.
You were there, and I was, yeah. Well, you can say it.
Yeah, well, you know, you had a heart attack on me.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that was pretty frightening. That was at Lone Star.
It was a long start.
I was actually, when Cajun Beat won the Breeders' Cup, I was actually there in Santa Anita.
Yeah, that was in Santa Anita, and Cornelio rode him. And then Vindication won, he was the champion 2-year-old.
Now, you've helped Satish pick a few horses, haven't you?
Yeah. Mhm.
Any great success there?
Well, tried to buy No Biz Like Showbiz.
That didn't work out, though, did it?
No, because we offered $2.5 million, and it was not for sale. And then, make a long story short, the sheikhs from Dubai, they offered $10 million. Went from 2.5 to 4 million, then to 6 million, and they finally made it 10 million, and she still wouldn't sell. And who was the greatest racehorse that I've ever seen? Citation. They used to say back in those days that Citation came from Mars. He was, that's how great he was. Now, people will say Secretariat with cigar, this and that and the other thing, but three great men that are in the Hall of Fame today. Eddie Arcaro, the jockey, they say he's the greatest rider of all time. Well, anyway, he said what I'm going to say. Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, he said the same thing. And Max Hirsch, that trained for Robert Clayburgh, that had King Ranch, the largest ranch in the world, 1 million acres. Max Hirsch trained Assault Triple Crown winner, 1947. He also won with Middle Ground, the Kentucky Derby, in 1950. Max Hirsch, Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, and Eddie Arcaro, they're in the Hall of Fame. And even my old boss, Preston Birch, Elliot Birch's father, he's in the Hall of Fame. They all saw these horses run in the yesteryear. And they all said, and told me in person, because I asked them, who is the best horse they've ever seen? They saw Citation, and they saw Man of War, and they saw all the rest in between. And they said, without a doubt, Citation. Well, the top trainers in thoroughbred racing today, in my opinion, are not in order. This is not in order. Todd Pletcher, Bobby Frankel. And why do I say those two fellas? Is because I've been in their shed rows. I've been in their barns. '77 or '78 at the Belmont Park, John Henry. I had a claim made out the night before for John Henry. The race was 25,000 down to 20,000, and he was in for 22,500. And Lefty Nickerson was training him. They had just bought the horse, and Mr. Rubin, he owned a bicycle business, bicycle shop. Mr. Rubin, it was his first horse, and Lefty got it for him for 25,000. He was running down at South in the fairgrounds and the different minor tracks. But back then, you know, they had horses that could run anywhere. But I knew the horses he was running with against at the fairgrounds. So I made out a claim for him because he was a 3-year-old at the time. And when it got in the paddock, the agent for the owner, which was a new owner, he put $68,000 in the office for me to claim horses for him. And the agent said, let me see that slip. And I gave him the slip, and he said, you know, on a claiming slip, you have to put down the breeding, the sire, and who the mother is, and who the broodmare sire is. You have the date's got to be right, and the amount's got to be right. Otherwise, the claim will be voided. So that's why I do it at night, if I'm interested in claiming a horse. So he said, let me see that slip. So I showed him the slip, and he said, see, John Henry was by old Bob Bowers. And Tony said, old Bob Bowers, where in the hell did he ever tend bar? And he tore it up. Now, that was the end of that. So he ran. Well, before I knew you, Steve, you had a nice horse at Tampa, and but I didn't know you. But I knew the horse, and I was, in fact, I had a claim slip made out for him, and for Bruno Bellucci, which last week he passed away. Bruno was a long-time trainer, and he looked at the claim slip and he said, "Well, I don't like his breeding." And the only mistake I made was I should have claimed him that day. But I was doing this for Bruno. Shipliner was the horse's name. Shipliner, I think, was in that day for either 12,500 or 16,000, something like that. And he ended up in the Tampa Bay Derby. And I came to a conclusion that I had all my chances from 1956 until now, and I just gave up. I surrender. Mrs. Thayer, the owner of Tampa Bay Downs, she just told me at the paddock at Saratoga, the last meeting, she said, "Why don't I write a book?" And she said she'll get me a ghostwriter. And I told her that I couldn't do it because if I ever wrote a book, I would be barred from every racetrack in the country and in Paris and in London. Because I would expose everything on the other side of the fence. And so that's that story. That's a story in itself.
Terry out and skip away coming down the stretch.